ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं शरणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि वदन्ति भूरिदा जना. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome, everyone, to a class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on chapter 30. This begins on page 578. It's Thursday, October 2nd, 1884. And it's a long section. We're up to the middle of page 587. And okay. In the room was Hriday, a young man about 20 years of age who was a relative of the Mukherjees and very much devoted to the master. He was married. At that time, he was living with the Mukherjees and looking for a job. The Mukherjees will be this Mahendra and Priya, these two brothers that play a fairly prominent role in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. They visit Thakur very often and very much devoted to him. Thakur liked them, and they had a lot of free time. One had some mill, some, what was it, cloth or something. Anyhow, so this will be a relative. We don't meet him much after this, if at all. Master to Hriday in an ecstatic mood. Take your initiation after getting your mother's permission. To Priya, referring to Hriday. I couldn't give him the mantra, though I said I would initiate him. I don't initiate people. Continue with your own meditation and japa as you have been doing. Now, we always have to pay attention to what mood Master is in an ecstatic mood. When he's in an ecstatic mood, he's speaking from a different mindset very often. And we find this in other places. Sometimes he'll hear about a dream that somebody had, in one case M, or something else, and he'll say, take initiation. You find a guru. So why exactly he speaks in these terms and why he's so hesitant to refer to himself and to say he doesn't give initiation when we always feel that his direct disciples were initiated by him. And we know that he did give some type of initiation, writing something on the tongue, which we assume is a mantra. Sometimes he would tell them. Other times he would say, I have no disciples, I don't give initiation, depending on his mood, because he would feel that the Lord of the universe is the real guru. Satchidananda is the real guru. Sometimes he would just be in that mood of a child. The Divine Mother does everything. I'm nobody. So in all different moods, he would speak in different ways at different times. So he says, I couldn't give him the mantra, though I said I would initiate him. These are all very, very hard to understand because Thakur was so particular. If he said something, he did it. Yeah. So it's very difficult to understand how he would say things in a particular mood. And when he says, I would say one time with Girish, Girish is practically begging him to give us his blessings. It happened at other times also. And he says, I don't do that. And then he says, but, may everything be well. So then that turns out that is the blessing. They take it that way. But it offends his sense of humility, whatever it is. So he'll speak in these terms. It's very hard to understand sometimes why he'll say something like this. And why, after mother's permission, this is something that Thakur was aware of, that there can really be difficulties within the family, and we don't know how old this Hari is. Oh, well, sorry, 20 years old. So uh, we know very often that before some of the gurus give initiation, they'll ask anybody else in the family, you have a husband or a wife, how do they feel about the whole thing? Because uh, if different members of the family have different spiritual attitudes, it can sometimes cause problems and everything. But again, this is all in this in its ecstatic mood. Will he say this every time? Maybe not. Maybe he knows it's something particular about Hari's family. It's very hard to say. I don't initiate people. I don't have any disciples. I'm not a guru. He used to say this, uh, Guru Karta Baba. These three words used to prick his skin, like this. Uh, there's some type of blowfish kind of thing, huh? That will sting. So he couldn't bear for people to call him that. And at the same time, uh, he could be in the mood of the guru. We know that. And uh, how he wouldn't hesitate to bless people in a certain mood. And as I say, to write something on the tongue was a very typical way that he would give some type of initiation. Yeah, we always wonder what type of mantra did they have? Did he actually give mantra to some? We know on just some rare cases, say that the case of Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, we know that he gave him this Ram mantra in Kashipur. I don't take that to be that initiation. I take his initiation to be when Thakur touched him in the very beginning, and he had his experience and everything. He must have. This is my guess that he must have told his disciples at different times to meditate on different forms of God with the different mantras and things, because he was always giving them little instructions for meditation. Uh, but this real initiation for someone like him was some direct transference of Shakti, some power. But what they did with their spiritual practice, yeah, this will be could be even a separate thing. Very hard to say. So it starts out that he's talking to the Hari and then to Priya. Take your initiation to Hari after getting your mother's permission. And then to Priya, referring to Hari. I couldn't give him the mantra, though I said I would initiate him. I don't initiate people. And then this is to Priya. Continue with your own meditation and japa as you have been doing. So he must have given some instructions to this Priya and his brother. Priya, yes, sir, master. And I am saying this to you in this state of my mind. So he's aware that he's in some high ecstatic mood. That remember that this is uh, just after watching the evening worship in the Kali temple. And Thakur always goes into some ecstatic mood at that time. And I'm saying this to you in this state of my mind. Believe my words. You see, there's no show or deceit here. Now, Thakur will say things at different times in order to give a different type of teaching or impression to somebody, but never with the thought of how people will think of me. This is the difference that very often when we say something or do something, we're very much aware that people will have an opinion of what we're saying and doing, will judge us according to it, and it'll affect our behavior. We'll react to people in different ways. Different people, those who we respect very much, will react in a certain way. Those who we don't like, in a certain. But Thakur was very consistent with regard to the fact that he was oblivious to how people would look upon him from an ego standpoint. This is the difference. Otherwise, he not that he was oblivious. He was always asking people, "How do you look upon me?" Yeah, but it was with regard to them and their spiritual well-being and everything. It was never that he wanted people to show him great respect, to think of him as a great soul, this and that. So there was no deceit. He said no show or deceit with him. He was very simple. He loved his guilelessness, and he was very simple and guileless, and just always relied on the Divine Mother for everything. I just said to the Divine Mother in my ecstatic mood, "O Mother, may those who come here," referring to himself. Yeah, very often he would, or rarely would he refer to himself from that type of point of view. He would use this word "I" sometimes, but when you talk about people coming to me, he would say to this place. So I just said to the Divine Mother in my ecstatic mood, "O Mother, may those who come here," referring to himself, "through sincere attraction obtain perfection." Mahendra Kaviraj of Sinti was seated on the veranda conversing with Ramlal, Hazra, and others. See, they're missing this. They're sitting outside. The master called to him from his room and went out quickly and brought Mahendra in. Master to Mahendra, "Sit down and listen to my words." Mahendra was a little embarrassed. He sat down. Now, again, it sounds egotistical that I'm talking, you come and listen to me. But we can't judge Ramakrishna from that point of view, that he knows that these things are useful and helpful for the devotees who are coming. And it's just for their well-being that he'll say things like that. Master to the devotees. God can be served in different ways. An ecstatic lover of God enjoys him in different ways. Sometimes he says, "Oh God, you are the lotus and I am the bee." And sometimes you are the ocean of Satchidananda and I am the fish. Sometimes again, the lover of God says, "I am your dancing girl." He dances and sings before him. He thinks of himself sometimes as the friend of God and sometimes as his handmaid. He looks on God sometimes as a child, as did Yashoda, and sometimes as husband or sweetheart, as did the gopis. Now, the reason that, which starts out God can be served in different ways, the reason that we can have all different attitudes and relationships is that there's no one fixed, absolute description that we have of the personal God that everyone has to follow. This is one of the most important teachings that we get in Vedanta. This idea that we personalize God for ourselves. We personalize God for ourselves. That God is beyond all personality and beyond all characteristics, all qualities, all form, all name, and because of that, we can apply any name. We can use any form. We can think of God in any type of relationship. That these are all legitimate ways of doing it, because there's nothing fixed. If God is the Divine Mother, and this is the beginning and the end of the whole thing, then if somebody worships God as Father, we say, no, you're wrong. God is Mother. But the whole point of this is that we're utilizing the longing of the heart and the particular personal mood that we have in order to approach God, who is beyond our ability to grasp, and we're making this infinite absolute reality personal, so that we can have that experience. When we have that experience, again, we can go beyond name and form. So this is Sri Ramakrishna explains this very beautifully with the image of the block of ice, that there are places in the ocean they get very cold and the water will form into blocks of ice. So he says that because of the devotion that we have, the type of devotion, and the conception that we have of God, how we like to think of God, that that'll be like a cooling power. They can turn this water into blocks of ice, and that block of ice will take the form that we want to see. And we can worship that form, we can have a relationship. When that sun of knowledge comes up, that form melts back into the ocean, back into oneness. And the whole time that it has a form, it's still water. And water is formless. Water, it can take a shape, but it's not. There's no absolute shape to it. The second we pour it into a different container, it takes a different shape. So this is that freedom that we have uh, to, or that everybody has to think of God according to uh, the understanding of the mind and according to the longing of the heart. These will be the two things. The understanding of the mind, that means that we can worship God as formless, infinite, absolute reality. We can worship God as a loving father or mother figure. We can worship God as Shakti, as power, all the different ways. And then we can think of God as assuming a personality and a form in order for us to be able to meditate and to have that type of relationship. So there are all different ways of doing it. And Thakur, this was the specialty of him, that all of them fit for him. For most people, there'll be one or maybe two that sometimes he asked M at one time, how do you like to think of God? And sometimes I like to think the infinite absolute reality beyond name and form and everything. And sometimes I like to think of God as I'm serving God as the master. And then Sri Ramakrishna says at one time, oh no, you worship God as Shakti. Think of God that way. So we can have somewhat different attitudes, but it has to be consistent with our personality. If we try to force it, uh, it, uh, it won't be beneficial for us. So it has to be something natural. It has to be something that appeals to the heart and appeals to the mind. If we feel that this is just some silly imagination, I'm told to think of God as a bee and I'm a flower, that won't work. It has to be something that appeals to our understanding and everything. Even in the Upanishads, this Isha Upanishad, this first verse, that it says that we're given a little overlay of personality to this infinite absolute reality, so that we personalize it, so that we can have a relationship with God. And the other thing is that it changes our understanding of ourselves. See, if we look at this, that you are the ocean of Satchidananda, and I am the fish. So immediately we have to think of ourselves as swimming in that ocean of pure consciousness. Now, not swimming in the ocean as a physical human being, I'll drown. Automatically, we have to think of ourselves spirit, worshiping spirit somehow. So these are all different attitudes and different ways of thinking. Not that we have to do all of them or can do all of them. Some of them won't appeal to us at all. And some will find very, very natural and very, very helpful. Yeah, there'll be some, they'll love this servant attitude. But if you say, think of yourself as Mother Yashoda and feeding the baby Gopala, they say, no, that doesn't work for me. Think of yourself as Radha and longing to see Krishna. No, that doesn't work for me. But think of yourself as Hanuman serving Rama. Say, yes, I like that. I like that attitude. So we have to find something that works for us and have this deeper understanding that all name and form are grounded in nameless and formless reality. All personality is grounded in this impersonal absolute. The impersonal absolute, if that's not the ultimate ground, then there can be this possible variety of ways of worshiping God. That has to be the ground has to be beyond anything particular in order for it to manifest as different particular things. So the one of the Western philosophers, Heidegger, he said the ground of being is nothing, not shunya, not as, but a type of nothingness, that which has nothing particular in it, so that it can manifest as anything particular. If the nature of God is something particular, then there's no option on different ways of conceiving of God. And this is a problem with many religions that take it that way, that, you have God as a father. It's a blasphemy to think of worshiping God as mother. How can God be mother? God is a father figure. But this Thakur's understanding, the understanding of Vedanta, is that this, what we call God is beyond any conception of male or female, or any relationship or anything. At the same time, that same ultimate reality dwells within all beings and is the real higher self within us, and can be looked upon in all different ways and approached in different ways. The whole point is to reach that reality. When we reach that reality, then we can see that we love the form that allowed us to get there, but somebody else can get there through a different form. There's a whole concept of Ishta Devata. Sometimes Balarama looked on Krishna as a friend. Sometimes he would think he was Krishna's umbrella or carpet. See, there's no limit to the imagination, the way how we think of ourselves. That how the gopis, if only we could be the grass on the ground, so that Sri Krishna could walk on us and we would get the touch of his feet. So many poetic things. It's all the power of the imagination to bring life to this infinite reality that it seems so far and distant and sometimes empty, or at least abstract. Let's put it that way, abstract. That this gives some beauty to that relationship. Of course, with the avatar, then it's not so much imagination. In the case of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, we don't have to use our imagination when we have their words and their even pictures before us. So this is another way of looking at it. Then M is musing. He says, was Sri Ramakrishna hinting at his own state of mind while thus describing the different attitude of a lover of God? Yeah, he's not doing it so that we understand his state of mind. He's doing it, he's saying all these things so we understand this process and we understand the infinite potential, infinite ways in which God can be approached. Next, he described Chaitanya's 3 spiritual moods. Master. Chaitanya Deva used to experience 3 moods. In the inmost mood, he would be absorbed in samadhi, unconscious of the outer world. In the semi-conscious mood, he would dance in ecstasy but could not talk. In the conscious mood, he would sing the glories of God. Now, the M very often says, after this, was the master describing his own moods, because he went through all these different moods. These are sometimes explained in terms of the different states of consciousness, these or the different koshas or the different bodies that in this waking state or with this physical body and everything else, then singing the glories of God. When one goes deeper and forgets even this physical body, but mind is fully functioning, and then singing in ecstasy, and then going even beyond that. If this is bhava samadhi, then we're in the realm of this anandamaya kosha. If it's pure nirvikalpa samadhi, then we've gone beyond even that to this turiya state. But this is another way of understanding the way we look upon God depends upon the level or state of the mind. Now, with us, the mind will go through different moods, but with these great souls, the mind would enter into different realms, almost different realms, so that it's not simply that going from being unhappy to being happy, or going from some frustration to some contentment. This is going in a different mood. Really, it means that maybe everything looks unreal, maybe everything disappears, maybe everything is internal. Uh, uh, Seeing the object of worship before oneself as if physically real, all different moods and everything that Thakur explains sometimes in terms of this kundalini also, the rising of the mind corresponding to this rising of Shakti. To the devotees, you are listening to my words, try to assimilate them. When worldly people sit before a sadhu, for the time being they completely hide all worldly thoughts and ideas. But once away from the holy man, they let them out again. You've seen a pigeon eating dried peas. You think he has digested them, but he keeps them in his crop. You can feel them there. Yeah, very, very often, Sri Ramakrishna will use this term, assimilate. Dharanachai, you say assimilate. That somebody will say that, yes, this is what you say, and I understand this and everything. I'll say, yes, but assimilate it. That means that don't let this just be something that now you logically understand, it makes sense to you and everything. Make it part of your very being. Yeah, live according to it. Let it be a standard and ideal for you, so that assimilate that. Let it get mixed in with all of your values and all of your uh, qualities and characteristics and how you live in the world. Let that be a guiding principle. All of these things. At dusk, put aside all duties and pray to God. One is reminded of him by darkness. As at the approach of darkness, one thinks, I could see everything a moment ago. Who has brought about this change? The Muslims, put aside all activities and say their prayers at the appointed times. Yeah, this is also in the early morning. We have that same phenomenon. If we sit for meditation when it's dark out, and when we open our eyes, it's bright out. That passing from night to day and from day to night, it gives this feeling of somehow the eternity of the self and the transitory nature of the world. And this change in nature somehow mirrored by some inner transformation that's taking place between us. When I was in graduate school, and I remember the first time that I read this line, this Shondavalai Shobkaj Chare Ishura Shoron Kor, that at sunset, set aside all of your work and just do your spiritual practice and everything. So I made it a practice that I was a college student then, this graduate school, that I finished all my work before sunset and never picked up a book afterwards. Then it was just for my spiritual practice. I kept it up for many years until the end when I had to finish quickly. But it's a very good practice to do. Of course, I had far better spiritual uh, qualities and tendencies when I was younger. No, I was very, very particular about all of those things. Yeah. And now I'll watch a game or something at night and everything. But yeah, for many years in the very beginning, this is why we have to do these things in the beginning. In the beginning, I wouldn't do anything. I would just read in gospel, meditate, and everything. Anyhow. Then he always praised the Islamic practice of namaz, how regular the devout Muslims are about worshiping 5 times a day, early morning, and then again in the evening, and the other times in between. And uh, this regularity in spiritual practice is something very, very important. And Thakur always pointed to this practice of the Muslims. I saw this so many times in certain Muslim countries, very devout countries, that everything will stop. And if you're on a train, there'll be one compartment. Everyone will go there for namaz at that time. If even on a ship, I traveled from Narayanganj in Bangladesh. Even if there'll be a whole one section that's set aside just for people to do namaz. They'll all do it at the same time. I remember I was in Iran once, and that was before the revolution. It was a very westernized country. Everybody wore Western dress. You didn't see much interest in religion at that time. And there were some Pakistanis on the bus. And the Pakistanis went to the driver and said, and they didn't want to stop. Driver, they were ready to kill him. And they forced him. Finally, he stopped. And then they all went out, these Pakistanis. They took their chadar and they put it on the ground. They did their namaz and they got back on, and then we went again. Yeah. So it's a good reminder for us that regularity in spiritual practice is good. Fanaticism is not good, of course, but to be regular in spiritual practice is something very, very helpful. If we can have the same time and place, if possible, for our meditation and japa and prayer, then it's very helpful. The mind automatically gets into that mood at that time of day. And just because the mind is a creature of habit, and it'll be prepared and ready at that particular time. So it's good to have a very fixed routine as far as possible. Mukherjee, revered sir, is it good to practice japa? Now, practicing japa, we can say it's repetition of the name of God, or we can say it means formally keeping count, a certain number. What he's referring to here is probably the formal type of japa. Is it necessary for us to keep track of the number of times that we repeat the mantra? Master, yes, one attains God through japa. This is a very common sentiment. We hear this. Holy Mother used to repeat this. Japat sati. Yeah, that through this repetition of the name of God, we can attain to perfection. And Thakur placed great emphasis on the repetition of the divine name. Yes, one attains God through japa. By repeating the name of God secretly and in solitude, one receives divine grace. Okay, so we have two things. In solitude, so we're not disturbed. Secretly, so that there's no feeling that we want other people to know that we're doing our practice. This is that idea that we had before, that, Thakur says that the less people know about our spiritual practice, the better. Yeah. We're always very happy to say, yes, I get up early in the morning. Yes, I sit for 2 hours. Yes, I do this, I do that. That's all very harmful because just for the sake of the ego. If it's very precious to us, we won't want people to know. Thakur says the sattvic way of the sattvic devotee is like that. So by repeating the name of God secretly and in solitude. Then what about group meditation? That's a different thing. That's also helpful. If we sit with other people who are also sincere, and we can feel some uplifting. We feel some attitude, and the atmosphere can be produced. So by repeating the name of God secretly and in solitude, one receives divine grace. Then comes his vision. So this divine grace that will come when somehow we transcend our ordinary way of seeing things. This ego somehow dies and we have some higher type of vision. Suppose there's a big piece of timber lying underwater and fastened to the land with a chain. By proceeding along the chain, link by link, you will at last touch the timber. Now, this is a very, very helpful way of understanding the japa. If we think that when we receive this mantra, we're given the end of that chain, and this chain, I like to think that it's not a piece of wood, that it's a treasure chest, and at the bottom of the ocean, that we don't know how long the chain is. We don't know how long it'll take for us to get there, but each time we repeat it once, we're that one link closer. And there'll be a time when this link will be above the water. There'll be a time when it's underwater. That means that there'll be a point at which we have to dive deep. We start out at the surface. We start out without having that feeling that, oh, I have to really be willing to risk everything for this highest type of realization. By the time we get to the water, then we're ready. Then we can just abandon any doubt or fear or anything and just dive deep into spiritual life. And we dive in and we find, lo and behold, we can breathe underwater somehow. We don't die. That we get closer and closer. So this will be kind of the different stages in spiritual practice. Higher than worship is japa. Higher than japa is meditation. Higher than meditation is bhava. Higher than bhava or mahabhava in prema. Chaitanya Deva had prema. When one attains prema, one has the rope to tie God. Okay, now, when he says higher than worship is japa, this means formal ritualistic worship. It doesn't mean intense prayer, worshiping God that way. So formal worship, when we do, if we can do japa now, doesn't mean that this formal worship is not helpful or useful. For some people, it's very, very helpful. And for some people who are not beginners in spiritual life, that this is one of the important parts of their spiritual practice. But if we reach the point where the mind gets so absorbed in the repetition of the mantra, then worship is not necessary. This fulfill whatever need there was to do that. Then higher than that is meditation. That means the mind gets absorbed in the divine name to such an extent that we don't have to bother about keeping track of the number of times we repeat it, or we may even, mind may go in a high state where the mantra itself disappears. This can also happen at times. For some people, the mantra remains, but it becomes effortless. We don't have to think about it. Then we get to different stages. These are all different levels of spiritual attainment along the path of devotion. These are all things that are spoken of in the bhakti schools, bhava. So this will always include some feeling of love, some emotion will be there. It's also a higher type of direct experience of the divine, but there'll be some loving relationship, some feeling of love will be there. Higher than bhava is mahabhava. This is just an increased state. As the temperature rises, the air gets thinner and thinner, and so it's something like that. And prema, divine love. So these are not terribly different concepts, bhava, mahabhava, and prema, but they're different levels and different intensities of that experience. When one attains prema, one has the rope to tie God. So that means that now this infinite absolute reality has become very intimate and close to us. They give the illustration of Mother Yashoda trying to tie this baby Krishna. There's a very nice story about that. Each time she takes a little rope to tie around this little infant boy, it's a little bit short. She gets a little bit longer rope. It's still a little short. And she can never get rope long enough because he's the infinite absolute reality. There's a way of saying that. At the same time, he comes in this very tender, loving form. Yes, Swamiji says the devotion, this love of God, this is the rope that will allow the devotee to pull himself, to eliminate that distance between ourselves and God. But in devotion, we start out with some dualist relationship, dualistic feeling of separation. As we proceed on that path of devotion, we feel get closer and closer and closer till we have that oneness, that feeling of oneness. We just read this one Sufi poem that Swamiji liked. that in the beginning there were two sets of eyes, yours and mine. And looking in your eyes, I forgot which one belonged to you and which one belonged to me. And then there was only one set. That's a beautiful Sufi idea. So this path of devotion also leads to this oneness. Uh, it may be thought of in terms of some divine union, but still some type of oneness also, Thakur says. Hazra entered the room. Hazra, of course, is a little bit of the troublemaker here. Master to Hazra. Love of God, when it is intense and spontaneous, is called raga bhakti. So again, these are all different terms. This raga bhakti will not be something essentially different from bhava, mahabhava, or anything. It's just different terminology from different systems. Vaidhi bhakti, formal devotion, depends on scriptural injunctions. So this is one of the different two-tiered systems that first we have to do some type of formal spiritual practice. It may be formal worship. It may be doing our japa for a certain number of times, keeping track of everything. All of these ritualistic things, some of them may be there. And we have to follow scriptural injunctions or the instructions of the guru. That we follow these things very, very carefully. And this takes us to the point where we can be free from it. So Thakur says, it comes and it goes. That means if it's something a little bit mechanical, that sometimes we'll feel great devotion, sometimes we won't. That there's nothing fixed about that. That we know in our spiritual practice, sometimes the mind goes deep, sometimes it floats, sometimes it wanders, sometimes we feel great love, sometimes we feel dryness. This all belongs to that beginning state. But raga bhakti is like a stone emblem of Shiva that is sprung up out of the bowels of the earth. So we have two different types of Shiva lingams. Those that are taken from the stone that's found, and they'll smooth out into a very nice oval kind of shape, egg-like shape. And others will just be some stone that nobody's placed. It seems that it's just coming out of the earth that'll be worshipped as a Shiva lingam. It would be natural and spontaneous. The others are handmade, human-made kind of thing. So Raga Bhakti is like that stone emblem of Shiva. That means that it's just natural. It's arisen on its own. There's no need to make any effort with regard to it. One cannot find its root. They say the root goes as far as Benares. Only an incarnation of God and his companions attains Raga Bhakti. Now, this is also something that we have to try to understand, because Sri Ramakrishna, he talked about this Vaidhi Bhakti and Raga Bhakti as something that is for everybody, that we all reach a point where we can leave some of the ritualistic things behind and start going deeper and deeper in spiritual life. So why does he say only an incarnation of God and his companions attain Raga Bhakti? Because he's talking about the ultimate goal of Raga Bhakti. So if we think that the stairs to the roof, this is a common example, that this Vaidhi Bhakti will go a certain distance, and then this Raga Bhakti, there'll be a point where we can switch over, that we can all do that, but to get to the very top, we can get to the roof without having this Mahabhava. We can have God realization without having any of the types of superhuman experiences that a Chaitanya Deva or Sri Ramakrishna had. That we don't have to have profuse tears and blood coming out of the pores and burning sensation, all of these things that are signs of this tremendous type of Mahabhava and everything. That's not necessary for us. We won't need that. For us, this Raga Bhakti, it'll be this, it may be a very soft type of love of God. It may be with great longing and everything, but this is the advantage for us, we can say, that we don't have to go through And the same thing with that tremendous longing, that the agony of heart that Sri Ramakrishna went through, that we won't be able to bear that. We'll get burned up with all of that. We need a certain amount of that. But the degree to which these great souls, the degree to which they yearn for God, and the degree to which they have that ecstatic joy of union with God, we can't expect to have it exactly like that. So when it says this raga bhakti is only for the incarnation, that this is his way of saying this mahabhava and prema. He says that in many other places. Just as this nirvikalpa samadhi, this ability to merge the mind in the absolute and come back down and go back up and down again, this is also, ordinary people won't be able to do that. And it won't be necessary for us to do that. So there are certain things that we understand depend upon that spiritual power that we have, the degree of shakti that will determine to what extent we can have these different types of experiences. Hazra, me, Master. One day I was returning from the pine grove when I saw you telling your beads. I said to the Divine Mother, Mother, what a small-minded fellow he is. He lives here, and still he practices japa with a rosary. Now, this is another good example of Sri Ramakrishna, with all his humility and all of his modesty and all of his lack of interest in being thought of as a great Mahatma and everything, that he knows the value of living with him. He knows the opportunity that Hazra has living with him, not just at the temple garden or anything like that, but having his company. And what he's saying is that he's still in this Vaidhi Bhakti stage. So even someone like Hazra should have reached that stage where he doesn't have to do so much of ritualistic things. Not that he's going to get this highest ecstatic, vision of God and everything. And of course, his doing japa with the rosary half the time was for show. He's the perfect example of somebody not following that teaching, that he purposely did it sitting right outside of Sri Ramakrishna's room, so that anybody who went into the room would see him sitting there with his rosary, doing his japa. And half the time praying for money or trying to get money because he had some debts and things. So Thakur says, he lives here and still he practices japa with a rosary. Whoever comes here, referring to himself, will have his spiritual consciousness awakened all at once. So these are the things that he'll say in this ecstatic state that he may not say at other times. And he may not say in front of anybody and everybody. He won't have to bother much about japa. Go to Calcutta and you will find thousands telling their beads, even the prostitutes. Yeah, so this telling of the beads, we see it, and many countries, many other traditions are also that just walking along the street, I would see this. Sometimes they even call them worry beads. Have you heard that expression in Greece and everything? That it's a rosary, but people do it just kind of relieve some anxiety or something. So they call it worry beads. What are they thinking about? Are they actually doing? Yeah, are the Christians doing the Hail Marys, or the Muslims doing their what mantra that they recite, or the Hindus all thinking of God? Yeah, it's some of it just a habit just for the hands and to keep busy. Others are very serious, of course. And not that everybody is like that. But this Hazra, he definitely did it for show, sitting right there in front of everyone. So Thakur is saying that it has to be sincere. He's not saying that the prostitutes are incapable of having making spiritual progress or anything. He's not saying that. He's saying that just the fact that somebody is telling their beads, it doesn't mean that they're being sincere and making spiritual progress. To M. Please bring Naran here in a carriage. I am making the same request to Mukherjee. I shall give Naran something to eat when he comes. There is great significance in feeding these boys. This is not Naren. This is the M student, Narayan. He called Naren. Yeah, Thakur very often, he would tell these young boys to make pranam to the older ones, to M and some of the others, and he would tell the older ones to feed them. That feeding them, because they were so pure-hearted, pure-souled, innocent, that Thakur saw God, the presence of God dwelling within them very clearly. To feed them would be like making an offering to the divine, and would be good for the householders. Okay, we get to now Saturday, October 4th, 1884. It was the day of the first full moon after the Durga Puja. Sri Ramakrishna arrived at the Calcutta house of Nobin Sen, the elder brother of Keshav Chandra Sen. Now, Keshav had just died a few months earlier. He just passed away. And Keshav's family members, especially his mother, they were very devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. Keshav, of course, also. So they had arrived at the Calcutta house of Nobin Sen, the elder brother of Keshav Chandra Sen. On the previous Thursday, Keshav's mother had begged the master to pay her a visit in Calcutta. This is partly to help her get over her grief at the loss of a son, a terrible thing. The master seated himself in a room on the upper floor of the house. With him were Babu Ram, Kishori, and a few other devotees. Now, M is not mentioning himself. Of course, he's there. Kishori is his younger brother. So probably whenever Kishori is there, probably they came together, is my guess. Nandalal and Keshav's other nephews, Keshav's mother, and other relatives of his waited on the master. It had been arranged to have devotional music performed in the room, and was sitting in a room downstairs listening to the kirtan. Sri Ramakrishna said to the Brahmo devotees, "The world is impermanent. One should constantly remember death." Now, we have to remember the context. They're just grieving over the death of Keshav. So he's saying this especially for them. Then he sang, "Remember this, O mind, nobody is your own. Vain is your wandering in this world. Trapped in the subtle snare of Maya as you are, do not forget the mother's name." Baby Dakmon, Keo Karuno is a beautiful song. This is really a beautiful song. Now, it sounds very pessimistic that we all have people that we love and they love us, and we feel they're our very own, and parents and children, husband, wife, that would do anything for us. And sometimes we think that, isn't this a little bit too strong? That aren't there good people that really care for us and everything? Of course, this is not to say that everybody is trying to fool us and play tricks on us. They don't care about us. It's not to say that. It's just to say that in the end, in the final analysis, that who will go with us when we leave this world? And even when here, what guarantee is there that everyone will remain? Others won't give up this body and pass away before we do. And that we have that divine presence within us that is always there at every moment. Now, the other side of this, we may say, well, what about Holy Mother? What did Holy Mother, her final message? That no one is a stranger. Everyone is your own. Learn to make the whole world your own. Actually, Thakur said that also. That Keo Pornoy, you'll find the exact expression that Thakur telling that. So it depends on the mood, on the time, that which one is the right teaching for us. There's a very nice section from the Talmud, this Jewish scripture. I don't remember exactly, but it says that I have two pieces of paper with a message on it. I keep one in one pocket and one in the other. One pocket says that I am nothing but dust and ashes. The other says I am this whole universe. And when I need one, I have it in that one pocket. I can pull it out. When I need the other, I have it in the other pocket and pull it. Something like that. Yeah. So this is that same thing. There are times when we want to tell us that no, why should I rely on other people? I rely on God. That's all. And there are other times when I'll say, yes, I want to feel oneness with everybody. I want to feel that divine connection with everyone. They're not mutually exclusive. They suit different times and are helpful at different times. The master said to the devotees, dive deep. What will you gain by merely floating on the surface? Renounce everything for a few days. Retire into solitude and call on God with all your soul. The master sang, dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. This is another one of the favorite songs of Sri Ramakrishna. This, many people ask that what does it mean to dive deep? And I I think it's helpful to look at this image that we have, that really diving in the water, and the further we go towards that, the gems lying at the bottom, the less we remember where we've left this outside universe, and the more we go from that surface mind into the heart center. The more we give up this uh, cognitive aspect of thinking and everything, we go to that depth of feeling. So diving deep, we're transcending this level of mind that is always trying to figure things out, and getting into that heart center, the depth of feeling, and increasing the intensity, going deeper and deeper, and trying to emerge and lose ourselves in that reality. So, well, these are all different images that we have, and see this particular song. This is from the devotional point of view, that we get to the bottom, and we can have all sorts of visions at bhava samadhi and everything. And on the way down, we see all beautiful fish and different things and everything. If we get to the real depths, we may find just blackness. There are parts of the ocean where the light can't get to it. It's so far down. That'll be that infinite absolute reality for the jnani. At Sri Ramakrishna's request, the Brahmo devotee sang, thou art my all in all, O Lord, the life of my life, the essence of essence. In the three worlds, I have none else but thee to call my own. Thou art my peace, my joy, my hope. Thou my support, my wealth, my glory. Thou my wisdom and my strength. The master sang again, O mother, for Yashoda, thou wouldst dance when she called thee her precious blue jewel. Where hast thou hidden that lovely form, O terrible Shama? And there's a whole class of songs that talk about this oneness of Mother Kali and Krishna because of the common color. So Shama and Shama, Sham and Shama, that one for the Divine Mother, Krishna and Krishna. That so these beautiful ideas we have in these songs that oh mother, why have you abandoned your garland of wildflowers and put in a garland of human skulls, different things like that, just to show that the same one reality, divine presence, same Ishvara, we can say, can be worshipped as Krishna or as Kali, one and the same. Yes, somebody wrote a book many years ago, a scholarly book, a small thing. It was called The Sword and the Flute. The Sword and the Flute, about all of these poems and songs, this tradition. The sword meaning Mother Kali, the flute meaning Krishna. That there's a whole tradition of one manifesting as the other in a different age. The Brahmo devotees also sang to the accompaniment of cymbals and drums. O mother, how deep is thy love for men! Mindful of it, I weep for joy. Almost from the day of my birth I have transgressed thine every law, and still thou lookest on me with love, comforting me with sweetest words. Mindful of it, I weep for joy. O mother, the burden of thy love is far too great for me to bear. My soul gives a heart-piercing cry. At thy love's touch, to thee I come, seeking a refuge at thy feet. They again sang of the Divine Mother. O Mother, thou my inner guide, ever awake within my heart, day and night thou holdest me in thy lap. Why dost thou show such tenderness to this unworthy child of thine? Ah, it seems thou art mad with love, now caressing, now with strong grasp, holding me firm. Thou givest me to drink thy nectar, pouring in my ears thy words of loving tenderness. Unceasing is thy love for me, a love that cannot see my faults. Whenever I am in danger, thou dost save me. Savior of sinners, I know the truth. I am my mother's, and she is mine. Now I shall listen to her alone and follow the path of righteousness. Drinking the milk that flows from my mother's breasts, I shall be strong and sing with joy. Hail, O Mother, Brahman eternal. The master and the Brahmo devotee sang several songs about Hari and Gauranga. And this is the end of that day. So we're stopping on page 590, and we'll begin with Sunday, October 5th, the very next day, 1884, the middle of page 590. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhatadavikraham Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namah. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who was stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Okay, thank you, everyone, and see you next time.